What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Cairo Pacific University show, the show that explores with our guests culture, politics, psychology, leadership, you name it. We're bringing it here to you. And today I have an incredible guest, a man with a mission, and he's on a mission to do a lot of really good things as he has done in the past. But at times, when you see that there's something not so great going on around you, this calls for leadership. This calls for a skill that, it's a chance to step up. And this is exactly what our guest did for the city of Los Angeles. Today, my guest is the person running for the mayor of Los Angeles and hopefully the future mayor of Los Angeles as well, Mr. Asaad Alnajjar. Mr. Asaad, welcome in. How are you doing today?
Hi, Rita. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Doing great.
We are so happy to have you. I have gotten to meet you and I've gotten to talk to you, and I know a little bit about your platform and all the amazing work you're doing. But I want to hear from you this question of who do you see yourself as? If you were to describe yourself, what would you say?
Right. So to start with, I'm a civil structural engineer. Been working for the city of LA for 36 years, and I've been in Los Angeles over 42 years. I'm married to a beautiful wife. She works at the city of LA too as a civil engineer. And I have two daughters pursuing higher education, one at USC, one at UCLA. Where I see myself is definitely I'm not a politician. I'm an engineer by nature. I'm an engineer by thinking. And that's where the city of LA need. I see myself coming in to re-engineer the city of LA, to reform what we have, to bring the grassroots of our infrastructure, our society from the bottom to be lifted up. So this is a brief of who I am.
I love that. That's such an incredibly beautiful family. And I pray that, they're always with you and always thriving and doing great. And two, it's an incredible platform to run with. Now, you started off saying you are not a politician, and people don't necessarily have the best views of politicians. So that's great for you. But what would compel someone who is not a politician to enter into this political race?
The first response to that would be, I care about my family a lot. I care about where my daughters and hopefully my grandchildren are going to end. The way right now it is on the local government in the city of LA, on the county of LA, Southern California, and the whole California, we are in a status in which our economy is destroyed. Our infrastructure is in shambles. Our economy is in a big mess. Supposedly, we're number 4 or number 5 in the world for California, but still, city of LA, over $1 billion deficit. So my concern, and that's where I went in, is what is the future going to look like for my grandchildren and your grandchildren and everybody's grandchildren? Because right now, the way it stands, they will not have any jobs by the time they graduate. They will not afford homes. They will barely afford cars. And then on top of it, there is not even public transportation to take them around. So that's what I'm stepping in, because it's time for the engineers to take over the planning, the building, and setting up the path for our future. Our politicians are welcome to come in and put the legislation. However, leave the building and running the city and the country for the engineers.
That is, it's very true that we see this a lot of times where it's almost as if there's a distance between the people and the politicians. And so it's nice and refreshing to see this, to see you trying to implement all these things. And I do want to go talk about the engineering and all that stuff, and we'll get to that the rest of the episode. I want to know if there was a moment that shook you in maybe a piece of information that you found within California that you're like, that's it. Like, it's almost like the what is it? The needle that broke the camel's back. Was there a moment for you?
There is a few or actually multiple ones, but I'll give you the one that I've been frustrated with and dealing with the past 48 hours, which is the SB 79, which is a derivative of the ED1. And sorry for giving you all these numbers. The SB 79, it's allowing the state of California that would go and have affordable housing. That's how they are trying to sell it. But it's multi-unit, multi-level units to be built next to major trains or major transit systems. So from the surface, it's nice. It's going to provide homes for everybody, supposedly affordable. But without the planning, they are putting buildings in the middle of already overexhausted areas, high density areas in traffic and resources and all that, without thinking that you're putting 1,000 people in a corner that already is overcrowded with 3,000. And the heritage of it goes back to the first action that the current mayor did in her first week of the job, which is ED1, in which supposedly give you a path for affordable housing. However, it was a backdoor in which the politicians came in and put all these buildings unwisely. So this is the one really is bugging me big time. Our city of LA council was split about it a couple days ago, but I've been very vocal about it. In LA, I am for affordable housing so that this way people don't think I oppose affordable housing. However, you need to build where the land could occupy the density. You build in the land where you are not causing issues on overcrowded schools, overcrowded market, overcrowded street. So that's the most pressing issue on my table right now, and it's going to be the most pressing issue for the next 12 months for all California.
Why do you think the opposition is pushing to have those housing there in particular? Why not somewhere else in the city?
Okay, so the model if you look at it from engineering perspective, it's a nice model. You spent a lot of billions of dollars of all this light rail train and it's going through in the middle of nowhere. So it makes sense next to the station, you build some buildings, some supermarkets, restaurants and all that. But to take a local stop, and this is where it is in LA, because when I worked in the design build on the environmental of all the lines we have in LA, we made the stations to serve the areas where it's already overcrowded with people to give them facility for the transit. And this way we eliminate the traffic congestion in the morning and afternoons and in the evenings. So in a way, we designed it in a way, it's one of those, the chicken or the egg. We designed the stations so that it serves the already overcrowded area. But this SB 79 is coming in to add to the station more buildings. It's good in like villages, towns, or rural areas where you have massive big land of nothing and there is a station, then you utilize it and you create a new suburb, a new neighborhood, a new town.
So in the city of LA, you're saying that there isn't enough space to house the people that are already living on the streets of LA. Is that essentially the issue? Is it more like, what are we going to do with these people?
Okay, so it's a very great question. There is areas that we, the engineers, identified that are prospective, that you could plan on it and you build in it and continue with it. However, the politicians doesn't seem to think that way. And it's one of those where we're trying to get the politicians to better understand how engineering planning is working. We have a nice, great, big planning department in the city of LA. I mean, when I started early back in 1989, I worked on the 2020 plan and 2030 plan. And right now I'm working on the 2050 plan. So we think ahead. But when it comes to politics, somehow they just override and they just go, okay, election time, let's call it affordable housing, and we're putting housing and all that. It's hollow slogans with no understanding of the economics, on the environmental impacts, on the traffic impacts. A lot of these buildings, just to add to it, immediately they say it's exempt from regulation, exempt from traffic studies, exempt from planning conditions, exempt from everything. And at the end, when you exempt from the essentials, you lose the battle.
If you had free reign, if you could do it all, how would you solve the problem that you're facing right now? What would be the solution that you would provide?
Basically, I had identified a lot of areas in LA we can easily utilize and put units. Some areas, they did that in the area south of downtown LA, some areas in the middle of between southeast and southwest LA. So some of the councilmen already implemented that. However, others, and for reasons unknown to me, but they decided they want to go into the overpopulated area and compound in there. I will try to leave it at being understanding on how engineering and planning works, and purely making decisions on what the people scream about, which is affordable housing and, take care of the homeless situation, get the people off the street. That's the disconnect here. That how you're going to utilize the already identified units by the engineers and match those with the timeline that the politicians should utilize.
So I love the complexity of the issues. And it's very true that there's a lot of times where we cannot say, okay, well, this is the problem, but there's a whole other subset of problems that occur. So you have housing, you need to get people who are homeless off the streets, you want to clean up LA, we want to do all these things, we want to get things better. But at other times, you have to think of how to get people to understand these complex issues. So what I see is there's a disconnect between the voting and how voting works and the people that are actually casting their ballots. How would you build that bridge between getting that very big complex information? Because it took you years to become an engineer, and then it took you years of experience for you to understand the way you're understanding them. So if you were to put it in simple terms or to bridge that gap, what would you say to the people to get them to side with you rather than what is familiar and what is already known to them?
So basically, I think the first keyword in here, which we lack today with the politicians, is the transparency. I will have full transparency. Plus, when we say we're listening to people, it doesn't mean, okay, give me a paper of all your demands and all that. Listening meaning we sit at a round table, we discuss the cons and the pros of the issue, and we equally on that round table reach the best solution that will benefit the economy, that will benefit the whole community, rather than just filling in numbers and say, oh, we have 100 units, I have a 200 unit. So transparency, making people part of the discussions, part of the environmental study. And this is what MTA is doing right now. And that's where they have their success story. They have monthly periodic meetings with the people to better understand the impact of what the light rail, the trains going in the middle of busy streets in Los Angeles. So with that also, I'll bring in the concept of utilize all the resources available. We have out there people who understand how things should be working for their own community. With that input, we could come in back to the drawing board and make the output to match specific case by case to the community. It can be done. This is not a puzzle. This is all it is matter of Are you listening and absorbing what you're hearing, or you're just listening and throw it down in the trash?
Here at Cairo Pacific, that we have this thing that is very in keeps with what you're talking about, where humanity is so prevalent and it's so important. And it's almost like this sympathetic, not just empathetic and sympathetic approach to dealing with that humanity. There's one thing that you said that really stood out to me, and that is listening to the people. You also give us an example, but listening to the people, to me, from what I'm understanding from you, is more than just being in their presence and saying, "Hey, what do you want to give me?" As you mentioned, to give them the list of the demands, but more so than anything else, it's this belief, this core belief that humanity matters and that the person in front of me matters as much as I do. And so, with that, I want to segue back to your family. At the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned that a big portion of this is that you saw your girls, they're growing up in a place that was great and now is kind of going backwards. And you hope that one day your grandchildren will grow in a better place. Tell me a little bit about what moved you from within that family to say, hey, it's not just about my family, but about the greater family of LA.
Right. It's the one main point that really is always on my radar for my daughters and for everybody's kids is once they graduate, there is no jobs lined up for them. And that is scary. This is very scary thought because, okay, how they're going to earn their living, how they're going to get married and have their own families. With that, it brings the whole community. If everybody's children are not able to have a job and have a new home and have their family started, then the community as a whole will collapse. And we'll see what's happening right now today. We have a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues sold all their property, took their kids and moved to Arizona. Some of them moved to Texas. Some of them moved to Nevada because of the property there is less, the cost of living is less. Maybe, yes, okay, the standard of living is less too, but they look at it this way: it's affordable, it's more safe, and has more opportunities than what's happening in LA. We're losing a lot. One example: Los Angeles is known as the destination, the global destination of all the movie production. However, we're losing studios. Some of them went few couple miles away to Burbank and to Santa Monica or Beverly Hills. The other ones actually went outside country. Recently, Netflix moved their $1 billion studios to Mexico City. This is a loss, not only city of LA, this is a loss for California and the whole country. And the same thing going with a lot of the manufacturers. And that's why in the city of LA, historically, we gave always extra incentives for the contractors who are established in the city of LA versus the contractors outside the city of LA. Things like that will enhance and improve all of us in one package.
So I have a very raw question for you. And I hope you don't take it in a bad way, but this is hopefully it translates a lot of people's question as well. Part of what politicians say is both sides of the issues that you've listed. And the people have heard these kind of stories frequently. And so at some point they think, okay, well, it doesn't really matter who's in charge. These things are going to happen. It's not going to be taken care of. It's almost like um, dating in today's world and trying to find the right person. You're like, they all suck, which is not a true statement, obviously, right? And if a person's working on themselves, then they're getting better. But my very raw question to you is, why does this matter? Like all the stuff. Why does this matter to me as a voter? Now, I'm not voting in the city of LA. If assuming that I am, Why does it matter?
Right. It matters because everybody wants a nice house, a nice home that they live in, enjoy after hard working labor hours at work. They want a nice place where they could sit together over the weekend and enjoy the whole family. But then when you open the door and step out, you don't want to be seeing all the trash and all the deteriorated streets. You want to see the outside. I'll be optimistic here, at least half as the quality as of your house. If we at least could target half of the quality of your house, then probably you'll make at least half of the people happy. The way it is, and I look at it this way. When I got to Los Angeles in the 80s, to me, the 80s were great. The city was wonderful. Yes, we had some traffic issues, we had some things here, but the quality of life was better. Or let's take it within even my department. When people called in for outages, light outages, street lights problems, on worst case scenario, 72 hours. Right now, because of the lack of resources, the lack of money, my department lost a lot of the money in lawsuits and liabilities that the city had to pay. So now your average fix from 3 days to possibly 4 to 5 years. And that means you step out of your house in a dark street. Forget about the crime and all that. You're stepping out in a dark street and you don't know if there is a nail or something you might step on. So that's where the voter need to understand that to run a city, to be a leader, you have to separate if you are a leader or a manager. Right now, the city is being managed by politicians with zero leadership, really zero leadership, and they run by crisis. It's like we've seen whatever happens in the city, then the next day, oh, this happened, let's fix it. A car wreck took place, come to remove it, things like that. But leadership means what I was telling you about earlier. You have to think, what are you going to do for whoever is coming as a mayor after the end of your term? You don't want to leave the city as a wreck. Like for now, once I win over the current mayor, I'm receiving the Titanic. I'm really literally receiving the Titanic, and I'm expected to have it afloat with nice music, nice buffet for you, all in couple weeks. For us, when you pass the baton from one mayor to the other, I'll give you an example around the corner. And, by the way, that's part of my master's, Program Evaluation and Review Technique, PERT. You come in and say A, B, or C, and you pick one. Regardless which one you pick, at the end of the day, then you could say, well, A did this. If I've done B, I could have done this. Same thing with LA. You work close with the 88 cities in the county of LA, then you go include the other county and work with them. Not working right now I have no idea what kind of agenda we have in the city right now, where we're heading. They talk about the Olympics. We're not ready for the Olympics. And I have no idea how we're going to be ready for the Olympics. We have no funding, no infrastructure. I don't want it to sound sad and ugly, but this is reality. Our hotels, yes, maybe. Our restaurants are nice, but our public transit, not ready. Our streets, not ready. And I'll leave it at that.
So with the morbidity, with like the negative connotation, which is the reality of the situation, what is something that people could actually look forward to in the city of LA and say, okay, no, this is good. This gives me hope.
Look at it this way. To give you hope, it's like you could afford a fixer-upper house, but you could see the potential, and you're willing to come in and work room by room, wall by wall, window by window, change the plumbing, the electrical, and all that. When you have a target that this house at the end of the journey is going to be the most beautiful house on the block, you can do it. All it is, you need to prepare a list of priorities. which one I'm going to tackle. And right now, it's funny. I put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then everything really is a 1. Then I start saying 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, and things like that. You put a list. You sit with the community, and again, I stress a lot on the community and the neighborhood councils that has been neglected the past 2.5 years. We have a 25-year-old 99 neighborhood council system. They had worked great under the Garcetti administration, the Villagrosa administration, in which the elected volunteers came into the elected council, to the elected mayor, and together collaborate to deliver results for the beneficial of the community. Right now, there is a big disconnect, and nobody is able to deliver anything. So when you come to each one of these 99, they have a list of priority different from the other ones, and you work with them. Some of it is going to be engineering solutions, some of it is going to be economical, some of it they want to build, but the permitting is taking forever, so you streamline that. Some of them don't have enough buses, so you include bus stops. It's a matter of the same I've been doing for 36 years. You put a timeline, the tasks.
Back up just a little bit for me before we run away from that point. Why is there a disconnect?
There is a oh, that's a long story. I mean, I don't want to get into the politician answer, but I'll give it to one word. The whole mayor administration at this time is incompetent. And I stress on the word incompetent. The selection of the people making the decisions have zero knowledge of anything to do with any decision making, anything to do with any city planning, city, all that. As an example, Palisades fire, and I don't want to give names, but is the direct result of the failure of 3 deputy mayors. They know who they are. They failed the city, these 3 deputy mayors.
Was that one of the things that drove you towards this election?
Yes, because I feel right now, originally I felt I'm on a bus. And it's like, okay, so at least I'm in the bus. I know from the window what's going on and all that. But now I feel I'm not even on the bus anymore. I'm in a box somewhere in the trunk of the bus and have zero anything. And even though I am involved a lot with all the top level management decision making, but still we are in the blind of where we're going. We are in the blind of where it is. And it reached a point I got frustrated. My team doesn't know what's going on. A lot of my team I lost between layoff or early retirement, or they just bailed out to a different job somewhere else. And it reached a point that the city is destroyed. Really, our city is destroyed. We don't have utilities. We don't have any infrastructure. And that was when if you look at my budget rebuttal for the mayor when she did the state of the city, the first line item I wanted to delete, and it's, should go. There is a lot of administration in the mayor's office that are doing nothing. They are getting paid for doing nothing, and they were brought in for nothing. That's waste of taxpayers' money. Same goes with the HR department. Same goes with a lot of these little departments they brought in. I don't want to say it's similar to the Middle East, but similar to the Middle East. You bring the cousin, you bring the relatives, you bring whoever you like, the friends, and establish a job. And where does it get paid from? Our taxpayers' money. And I'm tired of it. I am really frustrated. And that's why I put all my effort and I brought in my family with me so that, and my community with me, because my intention, June 2nd, to win this mayor race. There is no November. I'm not going to go at November. I'm going to win the 50% plus one on June 2nd.
Let's hope so. I could hear your frustration, and it really just shines. I want to say shines through, but it shines through in a good way because it's a zeal for doing what is good. I think that zeal comes from somewhere. Now, you mentioned the Middle East. I know where you're originally from, but I do want to share with the audience where you're from and how you got here to begin with. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So originally, I'm from Baghdad, Iraq, and right after I finished my high school, I came in to study my bachelor's and master's and higher education and all that. Uh, it was always in the plan from the beginning that I was going to come to the States to do my higher education because I was attending one of the American high schools back in Baghdad. So it was in the plan. What accelerated the plan is that Iraq went into the Iraq-Iran Gulf War, the war. So that one made me expedite because the whole region was a war zone. And I just figured, okay, so this way, two birds in one stone. I do my higher education and be away from the hot zone areas. I never expected that the war and the mess will continue for so long. And that's why when I figured right after my master's that Iraq and the whole Middle East is not going anywhere, I applied to the city of LA and I got hired on the spot.
Wow, you've been there for quite a bit of time, as you were mentioning. Um, in the Middle East, there's a lot of politics that is just all over the place. In Arabic,
Yes.
you may have heard this saying says, "Ma matat ma shifat min mat." You didn't die. You didn't see who died, right? And so you've seen the mess that politics causes to the people. How does that play out in the decisions that you've made in your political campaign so far?
Right. So basically, I share people's pain and frustration and I bring it in. And maybe that's why I have the accumulated frustration of hundreds of thousands of people inside of me. And I still smile about it. Uh, the Middle East is a different puzzle. Their politics is all on me, rather than we. The concept of we, the community, does not exist. And until they learn that it's a we problem, not an I make something out for my benefit, we will never get the Middle East to run. I still on the weekends have a lot of ties there and help a lot of my colleagues in the design build of telecom networks. That's my hobby.
That's cool.
GSM and yeah, that's my hobby. My hobby is design build of telecom networks, and I helped many countries with their design of the GSM networks, the evolution into the 5G. Yeah, uh, uh, so that's my hobby, and I still have time for my family. Don't take me wrong.
No, I love that. You know, that it's always, it shows the spirit of gratitude and grace that you have. Because if you are not doing that from the very beginning, then it's almost as if you have nothing to show going forward. But because even in your spare time, this was how you chose to use your time, I think it speaks very highly of what your goal is and your intention that you're trying to do. You know, it's interesting to me that in the Middle East, there's a big focus on the family, not in
Yes.
politics, but family is everything across the board in the Middle East. And you're talking about how the purpose or of the politician was, or the focus is me, me, me. I have this, you know, this notion that in California, it's become very much of an individualistic society. And in a lot of places, especially in LA, it's a very self-centered and it's very much about me. How would you, and it's almost like the reverse process, maybe, because politicians aren't necessarily that way in California, or we hope that they're not. But a lot of the people are. We're struggling with a very individualistic society. How do you get them to care about the well-being of everyone around them?
Right. Maybe the politicians are not going to like my answer here, since I am not a politician. what I look at it this way. The majority of the politicians, to them to come into the position, wherever it is, to go in the election and they end where it is, it's not really, and I say the majority, I'm not saying 100% all of them. The majority is they come in and they want by the end of their term to end with gazillions of dollars. I'm not going to say millions, I'm not going to say billions. Their dream is always in the gazillions. And that's where the failure happens. You seldom get people who are like me, and because we're a minority in which we come to serve because we want to serve the people, because we belong in the community. We're an integral part of this big machine. You know, we're a little bolt in a very big machine. But this little bolt might be the difference between the pistons are running or not.
Yes.
From that perspective. So that's where the me. Few politicians, and that you meet, and I know few of them, which are close friends, they come in with, how can we serve our community? The goal is not how much I'm going to be. They come in, and probably by the time they finish the term, they're living the same lifestyle, if not less, you know? For someone to come in with nothing and then end with 100, 200, 300, 400 million, that puts a question mark. You know, the salaries are not that high. Some people are asking me, you're going for a mayor. It's a little bit higher than wherever you're getting paid as a senior manager. But as a senior manager, at least you have set hours. As a mayor, you're expected to be serving the people on average 22, maybe 21 hours a day for 7 days. And you're going to have only 3-4 hours a day. And it's like, why? And I answer, the passion of serving the people is always there. And this is not, I just woke up with it. This is something embedded with me and from my family since I was a child. You know, sometimes you don't think, but like if you see someone needs help, the parents tell you, okay, give them so and so and all that. It's not because I thought in the beginning my parents doing that, because they don't want to deal with this person. But then I realized it's the action. When you're a 4 or 5-year-old child and you give $1 to someone who is needy, inside you, you will learn that helping the people is your number one task in life. It's not because your parents didn't want to deal with giving the money to the person.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it really just builds that within you. And I think I think it's one of my favorite things about the Arab culture to begin with, where there's that sense of generosity. And it's found in a lot of different cultures as well, but that's how they raise their kids to do that as well. There's a few words that you keep on mentioning that I admire so much because I do believe that terminology and the words that we use play a huge difference in our lives. And that is the word to serve the people. Now, at Kairos, we teach in our classes servant leadership, which is also modeled by Christ himself, who laid down his life for us. Um, with that servant leadership, what are the most characteristics that align with you? Like, this is how you show servant leadership. And what are some things you hope that servant leadership would accomplish?
Right. So basically, the first thing to accomplish is that you at least deliver and resolve the needs of as many people that are you could. I'm not going to be sitting here telling you I'm going to solve 100% of the people's needs. That's difficult. That's mission impossible. It's a great task. But from knowing our community, our culture, our city, if I can deliver at least 1% of the needs of the 5 million people in LA, I think that I would have achieved more than any of the politicians we had for the 100-something years that the city of LA has been established. That's my personal, humble opinion. I don't have a chip on my shoulder like a lot of the politicians do. I'm a humble person. I come hug the people. I talk to them. I have no issues with anybody. And I never look at someone mistakenly. Like, I've seen a lot of people do that. He's worth this much and much, so I should shake his hands this way. This one is worth this much and much. I shouldn't even shake his hand. You cannot differentiate. People are equal. We are all the children of God. We are all equal in the eyes of God. And we have, as human beings, to treat each other with respect, with honor. And we have to understand. We're not going to agree on everything, but at least we listen and understand why you're approaching this. You're saying the sky is blue, but then I will tell you, well, it's light blue. You'll say it's dark blue, but we're agreeing it's blue. So, there is everything, different shades of the reality and the truth.
To the testament of what you're saying, I just want to let people know, when I first met you, you were actually
Yes.
interviewing people, which I thought was really cute. I thought it was so sweet. You were going up to people, you were talking to them, and not just talking to them, you're like asking questions, doing some videos, things like that with the people, and not with the intention of like getting their votes or anything like that. It was more like you genuinely wanted to know who they are and genuinely wanted to hear what they had to say, which I thought was just so brilliant. And it's just so in keeps with what you've been saying throughout this entire episode that, hey, we want to hear the people and we want to listen to them. Now, I do want to shift gears for a second. We talked about politics. We talked about leadership. We talked about so many things. I want to take it a little bit differently, maybe a little bit outside of my comfort zone. I want to talk about economics. I want to talk about the economy. You had mentioned throughout this episode that California has the fourth largest economy in the world. We know this. LA is a big driver in all of this, but people are leaving. What can we do to make sure that there are jobs that are going to come back to LA?
Okay, so I will partially I will partially answer you, and the reason is my opponent has been watching all my videos and my posts and all that. And whenever I say something, her team goes and within 2-3 days, they try to copycat whatever it is. So I'm not going to spill the whole plan that I will implement once I am a mayor because I don't want to give her ideas at this time. But if you come and enhance on what the previous mayors, Hahn and Reardon and Villagrosa and Garcetti did, which is the triple P, the private-public partnerships, in which you're going to bring the private companies, the private investors, the business owners, regardless if it's small business or big business, and you bring them in the cycle with the government, the local government, then both economies will go up. Yes, the politicians will tell you, we'll give them incentives, we'll give them bonuses, we'll give you tax breaks, we will give you exemptions. That's nice and wonderful. But giving me things on paper without practical working model is not going to do it. Well, okay, I have so many nice papers from the IRS, from the local city clerk, from all of them. But at the end of the day, I don't have a product on the shelf. I don't know how to sell my product. So there is a lot of little businesses need training, need a marketing approach. And I did that actually 20 years ago when I was administering contracts for the city of LA, in which we had a program once a year in which we talked to all the little businesses and explained to them how could they get incentives as SBE, the small business, women-owned business, minority business, things like that. We guide them. And not only that, we made incentives for the big contractors in the city of LA that if they use some of these small businesses, they get extra point and they get preference in the award of the contract itself. So now I took the big boys and had them, in a way, bring the little boys so that hopefully the little boys become the big enterprise that we know. Yeah, you have the pyramid. It depends how you approach the pyramid. You go from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. And that's what it is. Being a structural engineer, I have to design from the top to the bottom because whatever is on my top, that's the heavyweight that's going to affect my foundation. So I cannot be thinking of the foundation before I start building from the top and take it all. Maybe the economists have different approaches. I'm not saying which is right, which is wrong, but this is my own preference. I'm going to build from the top. I'm going to get all the businesses around me, all the establishment, train the youth. Like I'm right now working with Public Works to enhance on internships for the Middle Easterns. And when I say Middle Easterns, I mean including all religions, all backgrounds, because, you know, the Middle East have it all. They have Jewish, Christian, and Muslims. They have Arabs, they have Kurds, they have Assyrian, they have Coptic, they have Armenian. I don't want to forget anybody, and then I'll get a phone call, people saying, you forgot so-and-so. A to Z of communities in the MENA region.
That's funny. You know, I'm a big champion for transferable skills. So the whole concept of you being a structural engineer and how it plays on what you're doing now. And so taking those skills and putting them in the right places, to me, is just such a wonderful thing to do. If you were to say there's one skill that you're like, this makes for a really good mayor and I got this skill, what would it be?
I'll put it in one word. True leadership.
Ooh, I love it. Okay.
And when I said one word, because I put the true and the leadership under one word, I'm not dividing them.
One concept, not one word, just one concept. True leadership or genuine leadership, as I like to call it.
Right.
It's the sense of, you know, real connection, real people, and really caring about the other person that's right next to me, which is where we started this episode. And towards the end of our episode, we're almost coming to a close. I want to hear what advice would you give the voters? What would you say to them? Aside from vote for me.
Okay, aside from me. When you vote, and this is not my own, I'll tell you this. This I learned from my eldest daughter. Sometimes when I'm in a rush and I'm voting, I start just reading through the summary that they give you in the booklet. And from the summary, I make up my mind, not realizing that the summary sometimes is written in a way that the author want to focus on one area, neglecting the other. So my daughter goes for every single item and research so many websites and books until she decides on one yes or no. My advice to all the voters, just don't go voting unwisely, voting because your neighbor is voting that way and all that. You understand where each item, each person, what's their ideology, what at the end of the day they're going to help, not only your family and you, how they're going to help your community, how they're going to help everybody and your children and grandchildren. So be an educated voter. That's all I ask. Be an educated voter, dig in the facts, and then decide.
And that's probably the most brilliant answer I've heard for quite a while. It is so hard to get a hold of that information. And I really, just as you were saying, there are some times where I'm like, okay, that's it. I've not gone over these 3 issues, but I'm going to vote for the political party that I'm closest to. And that ends up being the vote that I cast.
Exactly.
It's very true. It's such
exactly.
and I highly recommend it. Before we end our episode, I want to share your website as so that people can see. So this is the LA Mayor 2026.org. This is yours. this is you, right? It's brilliant. And so if anyone wants to check it out, please go ahead and do that. Also, you can connect with the mayor on here as well, future mayor on here as well, on Instagram and so forth. There's all kinds of different ways so that your voices may actually be heard as well. Any closing statements that you have for us today?
I really thank you for this episode and interview. I enjoyed it. Now I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I learned some things I need to adjust probably. And I encourage everybody to contact me. The email is on the website, but it's very easy. AA at lamayor2026.org. Because look at it this way. When we started talking, Rita and I, we started with my platform. But in reality, it's our platform. And if I don't hear from you which one's the priorities, I will proceed with the ones I have on the website. But this is your opportunity to tell me, Asaad, your number one should be number three. We think your number two should be number one. And this way, we as a community make up my platform for us so that we can all together make our Los Angeles, stronger Los Angeles, better livable, and number one desired city, safe city in the world. We didn't touch on safety, but it's a given.
Absolutely. There's a world of a difference, as you mentioned, between Irvine and Los Angeles when it comes to safety, and that's very true. This was brilliant. It was so much fun. Thank you so much for being a guest with me here on Cairo Pacific University's podcast, official podcast that you have. You guys, if you are here and you are new to this, you want to connect with us, you can do that at let me do this. KPU _ California, Cairo Pacific University on Instagram, also on all social media. You could also find us at kairos.aeu.edu, which hopefully you guys are seeing the academics and everything that is there. It's such a brilliant community, such a brilliant platform to run with. And as for me, if you are looking for me to find me, you can find me at The Word with Rita. And I will be with you in the next episode. Once again, Mr. Asaad, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
A guest on Cairo Pacific University podcast.